The courtroom had the particular stillness of a place where important things were being decided, and everyone present understood this. Ethan sat in the gallery, third row, slightly left of center. He had chosen the seat 3 days ago during the brief walkthrough his attorney had suggested, not for superstition, not for comfort, but because it gave him a clean sightline to the witness stand, and more importantly, to the judge's face. Ethan had spent 6 years learning to read people by their faces. It was a skill you developed when your primary survival mechanism was paying close attention. On the stand, Sarah was crying. She was good at this. He would give her that. The silk dress was black, which was the right choice, mournful without being theatrical, expensive without being ostentatious. She had worn her hair down, which she almost never did, and the effect was exactly what her attorney had probably told her it would be. Softer, more vulnerable, the visual vocabulary of a woman who had been wronged. She was describing the affair. Ethan did not have an affair. This was not a matter of perspective or contested memory. There was no affair. There had been no woman, no hotel room, no secret phone, no months of deception. There was a stack of fabricated text messages that Sarah's attorney had paid a considerable amount of money to produce, and which had been submitted into evidence with the confidence of people who had not yet understood what they were walking into. He watched her cry. He watched the jury. No, this was family court. There was no jury. There was only Judge Marion Holt, who had been on the bench for 22 years and who was currently watching Sarah with an expression Ethan had been studying carefully for 3 days and had decided was not sympathy. It was patience, the kind of patience that preceded a question. Sarah's attorney, a man named Gerald Fitch who wore cufflinks and had a reputation for aggressive asset recovery in high-net-worth divorce proceedings, was now walking the court through the lottery ticket. The $5 million lottery ticket that Sarah had discovered in Ethan's desk drawer, and which she was now claiming as a marital asset, compensation for emotional distress, the foundation of a new life she had clearly been designing for some time. $5 million. Ethan felt the folder in his lap. A standard manila folder, nothing remarkable about it, the kind of thing anyone might carry into a courtroom. Inside it was a document his uncle had signed, notarized, and FedExed to Ethan's attorney 8 days ago. He had read it 4 times. It was 17 pages long. Sarah had spent months building this trap. She had planted the evidence, filed the papers, hired the attorney, coached the witnesses, curated the narrative. She had done everything correctly, executed every step of a plan she had been constructing with the focused attention of someone who believed she was about to become very wealthy. She had not, in all of that time, made a single inquiry about who the lottery ticket actually belonged to. Ethan watched her cry on the witness stand. He waited. He was very good at waiting. He had proposed to Sarah on a Tuesday evening, which was not when you were supposed to propose. Not a weekend, not a special occasion, not a location with ambient lighting. He had proposed in the kitchen of the apartment he was paying for, while she was sitting at the counter doing something on her phone, because it had seemed to him in that moment that he loved her, and wanted to say so in a permanent way, and saw no reason to manufacture a context for it. She had said yes. He had believed, for some portion of the 6 years that followed, that this was the correct decision. The believing had eroded gradually, in the way that things erode when the evidence accumulates slowly enough that no single piece of it triggers the alarm, but the accumulated weight eventually becomes undeniable. Sarah was not a cruel person. She was not violent or vicious or even consciously dishonest in the early years. She was simply, and Ethan had spent considerable time finding the accurate word for this, oriented. The way a compass needle is oriented. Toward money. Toward the idea of money, the promise of it, the places and things and social positions that money could produce. He worked 2 jobs. This was not a complaint. He wanted to be precise about that, because he had never framed it as a complaint even privately, because he was not someone who invested energy in resentment when the energy could be directed at the actual problem. He worked the day job, which was mid-level project management at a logistics firm, and the evening job, which was freelance data analysis for 3 small businesses who paid him on contract. The combined income was enough to keep them comfortable, to maintain the house in the suburb they had moved to in year 3 of the marriage, to fund Sarah's particular relationship with retail, which was not an addiction in the clinical sense, but was also not a casual hobby. He had tried, in year 4, to have a direct conversation about this, She had cried, not the tactical, courtroom-calibrated crying of the woman on the witness stand, genuine crying, at the time, the kind that came from feeling criticized and undefended and misunderstood. He had apologized. He had not raised the subject again in the same way. He had raised it differently, obliquely, in the language of budgets and future planning. And she had agreed in the abstract and continued in the particular. And he had made peace with the gap between those two positions, because making peace with gaps was what you did when you were committed to someone. The commitment had lasted 6 years. It had effectively ended on a Thursday in March, at approximately 9:47 p.m., when Ethan came home from the evening job and found the house in the particular configuration of someone who had been there recently and left in a hurry. A drawer in his office was open. Not fully open, halfway, the way a drawer looked when someone had opened it, found something, and pushed it most of the way closed without thinking. He noticed these things. He walked to the desk. He looked at the drawer. He had a reasonable sense of what was in it, because he kept his office in a system he had developed over years, and which he maintained with the consistency of someone who found disorder expensive in ways beyond the physical. The birthday envelope from Uncle Wallace was gone. Uncle Wallace was his father's older brother, a man of 71 who had made a significant amount of money in commercial real estate over 4 decades, and had spent the subsequent years of his life doing what wealthy men who have no one to perform for often did. Exactly what he found interesting, which was primarily games. Not games in the trivial sense, puzzles, structures, situations that revealed things about people's character when they didn't know they were being revealed. He had been doing this, in various forms, for as long as Ethan could remember. The uncle who gave birthday gifts that were never quite what they seemed, who asked questions during holidays that felt like ordinary conversation and turned out to be something else, who had once, famously, structured the terms of a family loan in a way that its recipient didn't fully understand until 3 years later when the understanding came due. Ethan had always liked Uncle Wallace. He understood Uncle Wallace, which was why, when the birthday envelope had arrived, handed to him directly at the small dinner they'd shared at Wallace's house the previous month, accompanied by a look that Ethan recognized as the look Wallace wore when something had layers. He had opened it privately, read the handwritten card, examined the lottery ticket inside, and understood within approximately 90 seconds that the ticket was not simply a ticket. The card had said, "Happy birthday, Ethan. The numbers are already in. I thought you should know what a winning ticket feels like in your hands. What you do with it from here is the interesting part." Ethan had looked at the ticket for a long time. He had put it in the desk drawer. He had not told Sarah, not because he intended to deceive her. He had been prepared to tell her the following weekend, when they had the kind of unhurried time that a conversation with layers required, but because something in Wallace's phrasing had felt like a pause. What you do with it from here is the interesting part. It was the kind of sentence Wallace used when he was waiting for an experiment to run. Ethan had decided to let it run. He had not anticipated how quickly Sarah would find it. He had underestimated, perhaps, the regularity with which she went through his desk. The divorce papers arrived 41 hours after he'd noticed the missing envelope. He received them from a process server at 7:15 in the morning, standing in his driveway in the work clothes he'd already put on, holding a cup of coffee he hadn't yet drunk. The server was professional and impersonal and gone within 2 minutes, and Ethan stood in the driveway with the papers and his coffee and the particular quality of morning light that made everything look clear and slightly too bright. He went inside. He sat at the kitchen table. He read. The filing was comprehensive, in the way of documents prepared by attorneys who billed by the hour, and had no incentive for brevity. It covered the standard grounds first, irreconcilable differences, the procedural language of a marriage being formally unmade, and then moved into the specific claims, which was where it became interesting. The affair allegations were on pages 4 through 7. Sarah's attorney had been thorough. Dates, locations, a name Ethan did not recognize, and the text messages, reproduced in full, which Ethan read with the focused attention of someone studying a document in a language they did not speak and trying to determine the grammar. The messages sounded like him in the way that a very good impression sounded like the original, close enough to pass a casual review, not close enough for anyone who knew the original well. He noted which number the messages had come from. He folded that information into the part of his mind where he kept things he intended to use later. Pages 9 through 12 were the asset claims. He read page 11 twice. The lottery ticket discovered in the marital home, bearing the confirmed winning numbers for the March 14th state lottery drawing, with an estimated pre-tax value of $5 million. $5 million constitutes a marital asset acquired during the course of the marriage and is subject to equitable distribution. Given the respondent's documented breach of marital fidelity, the petitioner seeks full allocation of said asset as compensatory relief for emotional distress and marital misconduct. Full allocation, $5 million. Ethan set the papers on the kitchen table. He picked up his coffee. He drank it. It had gone cold while he was reading, which he noted without frustration because cold coffee was a solvable problem, and he preferred to reserve his attention for the unsolvable ones. This was not an unsolvable problem. He picked up his phone. He found the contact, Wallace asterisk, listed without prefix or title, the way Ethan listed everyone, and he pressed call, and it rang twice, and his uncle answered with the alert quality of a man who had been awake for hours and was not surprised by the call. "She found it," Ethan said. A pause, not a surprised pause. A pause of the kind that preceded a response that had been partially prepared. "How long?" Wallace asked. "She filed 41 hours, after I noticed the drawer." 41 hours. A sound that might have been something between admiration and satisfaction. She didn't waste much time. "No." "And the claim, full allocation, marital asset, compensatory relief for," Ethan glanced at the page, "emotional distress and marital misconduct." Wallace was quiet for a moment. "Well," he said, "I suppose we should talk about the trust documents. I was going to ask about those." "Come for dinner," Wallace said. "Tonight, bring a notepad." Ethan looked at the divorce papers on his kitchen table, at the fabricated affair, and the $5 million, and the 41 hours between the missing envelope and the process server at his door. "I'll bring two," he said. Uncle Wallace's house was the kind of place that communicated something about its owner without trying to. Not large, larger than necessary would have been out of character, but precise. The furniture was good and old, and exactly where it had always been. The books on the shelves were organized in a system that looked arbitrary and wasn't. The kitchen table, where they sat with Wallace's preferred tea and Ethan's notepad, had hosted, over the years, a series of conversations that Ethan had come to understand as a particular category. The ones where Wallace explained something that turned out to be more important than it had seemed when it began. Tonight felt like that category. "The ticket," Wallace said, setting his cup down, "is not what she thinks it is." Ethan had suspected this. He had not known the specific shape of it. "Tell me the shape of it," he said. Wallace had always appreciated directness. He nodded once, the nod of a man settling into a subject he knew well. 7 years ago," he said, "after the third time a family member tried to contest a portion of my estate. You don't need the details, you know the players. I restructured. All of it. The properties, the investment accounts, everything that could be argued over went into a series of trusts. Each one designed for a specific purpose." He paused. "One of those trusts is a charitable remainder trust. Do you know what that is?" Ethan did, in outline. He wrote it on the notepad anyway, because writing helped him think. "The trust holds assets," Wallace continued. "Those assets generate income, investment returns, property proceeds, and in this case, lottery winnings. The income goes to the trust first. The trust distributes to named beneficiaries according to specific terms. After a defined period, the remainder goes to a designated charity." He looked at Ethan. "The ticket was purchased by the trust, with trust funds. It was given to you as a demonstration. You were meant to understand what it felt like to hold a winning ticket, as I said. But it was never legally yours." Ethan looked at what he had written. "It was never a marital asset," he said. "It was never any kind of personal asset," Wallace said. "It belongs to the trust. The trust has an executor." He pointed at himself. "Me, and the trust has documentation. A great deal of documentation. 17 pages, as of last week, because I had my attorney update them when you called to tell me she filed." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "She's going to court claiming full allocation of an asset that doesn't legally exist as an asset she can claim." "Correct. And her attorney has built his entire case around it." "Correct. And no one has told them." Wallace picked up his cup. "It didn't seem like the right moment." Ethan looked at the notepad. He thought about Gerald Fitch, with his cufflinks and his reputation for aggressive asset recovery, preparing his arguments with the confidence of a man who believed he understood the battlefield. He thought about Sarah, who had spent 41 hours moving from discovery to divorce filing, who had not paused in those 41 hours to make a single inquiry about the provenance of the ticket, or the identity of the executor, or the legal structure of its ownership. She had been so certain. She had been so fast. "What happens," Ethan said carefully, "when someone tries to claim a trust asset as a marital asset in a divorce proceeding?" Wallace set his cup down. "Several things," he said. "None of them good for the person making the claim." He counted on his fingers. "The claim fails first. The asset is not subject to distribution because it was never a marital asset to begin with. It was held by the trust before your marriage and remains in the trust. That's the simple part." He paused. "The more complicated part is what happens when the court determines that fraudulent evidence was used to support the claim. The fabricated text messages, the false affair allegations. When those are shown to be fabricated, and they will be shown, your attorney is already working on the phone records, the proceeding shifts. It's no longer a divorce with asset division. It becomes a case involving fraud on the court." Ethan wrote that down. "Fraud on the court. There are sanctions," Wallace said, "for the party, for the attorney, depending on what he knew and when. And then there is the question of the legal fees that have been generated on both sides in pursuit of an asset that could not legally be claimed. Those fees, in a fraud on the court finding, are typically assessed against the party who committed the fraud." Ethan stopped writing. He looked at his uncle. "How much has Gerald Fitch billed so far?" Wallace smiled. It was the smile he had been wearing, in various forms, for Ethan's entire life. The smile of a man who had set something in motion and was watching it move exactly as designed. "I spoke with your attorney this afternoon," he said. "Her current legal bills, inclusive of the expert they've retained to authenticate the text messages, and the financial analyst they've hired to value the ticket's post-tax yield, are somewhere in the range of," he paused, $240,000. Ethan was quiet. "And the proceeding hasn't reached the courtroom yet," Wallace added. Ethan picked up his pen. He started a second page of notes. The motion to transfer came on a Wednesday. It was, as legal documents went, aggressively simple. Sarah's attorney was requesting that the lottery ticket, the physical ticket, currently held by Ethan's attorney in a secure evidence envelope, be transferred to Sarah's custody pending the final settlement hearing. The argument was standard asset protection language, the kind of motion filed when one party believed the other might do something inconvenient with a valuable item. The underlying logic was transparent. Gerald Fitch wanted the ticket in Sarah's hands so that she could claim it before the hearing, attempt to process it, and present the court with a fait accompli rather than a theoretical asset. It was a reasonable strategy. It assumed the ticket was claimable. Ethan's attorney, a woman named Diana Marsh, who had been recommended by Wallace and whose manner in depositions Ethan had observed as precise to the point of being almost surgical, had called him the morning the motion was filed. "They want the ticket transferred," she said. "I know. I can oppose it. Standard objection, we can delay." "Don't oppose it," Ethan said. A pause. Diana Marsh did not pause often, which made the pauses notable. "Ethan, let them have it," he said. "Transfer it." Another pause. Shorter this time, she was catching up to something. "You want her to have it in her hands before the hearing. I want her attorney to have argued, on the record, that it is a valid marital asset subject to full allocation. I want that argument to be complete before the hearing. I want it to be exactly as developed and expensive and well-documented as possible." He paused. "And then I want Wallace to testify." Diana Marsh was quiet for 3 seconds. "Okay," she said. The transfer was arranged for the following Friday. Ethan signed the paperwork in Diana's office, with the focused ease of someone completing a routine task. The paralegal who brought the documents in was probably in her mid-20s and had the slightly uncertain expression of someone who had been told the context of this particular signing and wasn't entirely sure what to make of the man doing it. He handed the signed documents back. He stood up. "Mr. Vance," the paralegal said, and then seemed to stop, because whatever she had been about to ask was probably not standard professional practice. "Yes," he said. She hesitated. "You're sure about this?" He picked up his jacket from the back of the chair. "Completely," he said. He walked out. Sarah's texts arrived that evening. He had not blocked her number. Diana had advised against it, on the grounds that anything Sarah sent voluntarily was potentially useful. And so his phone had been receiving her messages throughout the proceedings with the irregular frequency of someone who was managing her own anxiety through communication. Most of them had been variations on a theme: entitlement expressed as injury, demands framed as reasonableness, the language of someone who had convinced themselves so thoroughly of their own narrative that the performance and the belief had become indistinguishable. Tonight's message was different in register. "I heard you sign the transfer. Smart. This will be over soon and we can both move on. I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. I just couldn't stay." He read it twice. He noted the shift. She was moving into the exit phase, the language of someone who believed the transaction was nearly complete and was beginning to prepare the version of events she would tell afterward. He put the phone down without responding. He made dinner. He went to bed at 10 and slept without difficulty, which had been true throughout the proceedings in a way that he suspected would have disturbed Sarah if she'd known, because she had structured her case around the image of a man who was devastated. And devastated men didn't sleep well. He was not devastated. He had been, briefly, in the days immediately after the papers arrived. Not because of the divorce itself, which had been revealing rather than surprising, but because of what the 41 hours represented, the specific math of it, the speed with which a person moved from discovery to attorney to filing, without a single intervening moment of conversation or question or doubt. He had sat with that for several days. Then he had moved on, because moving on was what you did when the situation required it. The hearing was in 3 weeks. He spent the time preparing. The courtroom was wood-paneled and high-ceilinged, in the manner of county family court buildings, constructed in an era when the architecture of justice was meant to communicate something about its own seriousness. Judge Marian Holt had been in this room for a long time, which was evident not in any particular weariness, but in the efficient economy of her attention. She looked at what mattered and did not look at what didn't, and the things she looked at tended to feel the looking. She was looking at Sarah now. Sarah had been on the stand for 22 minutes. Gerald Fitch was conducting the examination with the practiced rhythm of a man who had done this many times, building the picture methodically, the timeline of the marriage, the financial contributions, the emotional harm, the ticket and its discovery and its significance. Sarah was performing well. The silk dress was doing what silk dresses were designed to do. The crying was calibrated, present enough to be felt, controlled enough to be credible. Ethan watched from the gallery. He had his folder. When Fitch concluded his examination and Diana Marsh rose for cross, the quality of the room shifted in a way that was subtle but perceptible, the way pressure shifts before weather changes. Diana was not dramatic. She did not perform. She asked questions with the clean efficiency of someone who already knew every answer and was simply creating the record. She established the timeline of the ticket's discovery. She established that Sarah had contacted her attorney within hours. She established that in the period between discovering the ticket and filing for divorce, Sarah had not asked Ethan about the ticket, had not researched its origin, had not made any inquiry of any kind about its ownership structure or legal status. "You didn't ask your husband where the ticket came from," Diana said. "I assumed. Yes or no, please." A pause. "No. You didn't ask whether it had been given to him." "No." "You didn't ask whether it might have been purchased by someone else." "No." In the 41 hours between finding the ticket and having divorce papers served, your only action was to retain counsel and file. Sarah's attorney objected on grounds of relevance. Judge Holt overruled with the expression of someone who did not consider the objection particularly interesting. "No," Sarah said. Diana made a note. She moved on. The text messages came next. Diana presented the phone records first, the actual carrier records, subpoenaed from the service provider, which showed the precise origin of every message sent to Ethan's phone number during the period in question. She placed them on the document camera with the unhurried confidence of someone presenting information she did not need to embellish. The messages Sarah's attorney had submitted as evidence of the affair came from a number registered to a prepaid device, purchased 14 months ago at a convenience store, in a city Ethan had not visited in 3 years. Diana looked at Sarah. These messages were submitted as evidence that your husband was having an affair. They were from his phone. They were sent to his phone, Diana said. From a prepaid device purchased 14 months ago, 6 months before you filed for divorce. Do you know who purchased that device? Fitch objected, sustained on speculation grounds. Diana moved on without adjusting her expression by any detectable amount. She requested that Wallace Vance be called to testify. Fitch rose immediately. His objection was detailed and technically competent and argued with the energy of a man who had understood, somewhere in the preceding 20 minutes, that the terrain had changed and was working to re-establish position. He had not been told about Wallace. He had not been told about the trust. He had built his case on a foundation that had felt, until approximately 30 minutes ago, entirely solid. Judge Holt listened to the objection. She overruled it. I'd like to hear from the executor, she said. Wallace came to the stand with the unhurried ease of a man who found courtrooms interesting. He was 71, which read differently in person than on paper, upright, alert, the specific quality of attentiveness that belonged to people who had spent decades caring about details. He settled into the witness chair and looked at Judge Holt with the manner of someone prepared to be useful. Diana walked him through the foundation. His identity, his relationship to Ethan, his professional background. Then the trust. He explained it clearly. He explained it the way people explained things they understood completely. Not simply, which would have been condescending, and not technically, which would have been obfuscatory, but accurately, with the precision of someone who had nothing to hide and no need to perform. The charitable remainder trust had been established 7 years ago. The lottery ticket had been purchased with trust funds as a designated gift to his nephew, structured under a specific provision of the trust that allowed for experiential gifts, assets given to a beneficiary for the purpose of experience, not ownership. The ticket had never been Ethan's property. It had never been a marital asset. It could not, legally, be allocated in a divorce proceeding, because it could not be owned by either party. Diana submitted the trust document into evidence. 17 pages. Gerald Fitch received his copy and read the first 3 pages with the expression of a man watching a building. He had designed collapse in a way he had not considered possible. He requested a recess. Judge Holt gave him 15 minutes. Ethan sat in the corridor during the recess, in one of the wooden chairs that lined the hall, with his folder on his knee and the particular quality of stillness he'd maintained throughout the proceedings. A paralegal from Fitch's office came out and walked past him twice without meeting his eyes. Diana found him at the 12-minute mark. She sat in the chair beside him and did not waste time. Fitch wants to discuss a withdrawal, she said. A withdrawal of what? Of the asset claim. He wants to restructure as a standard dissolution with equitable distribution of actual marital assets. She paused. There are no actual marital assets of significance. The house has a mortgage that is slightly underwater. The joint accounts have a combined balance of roughly $14,000. Ethan thought about this, and the fraud findings. He's hoping to avoid them. Can he? Diana looked at him with the expression she wore when the answer to a question was complex, but the direction of it was not. The text messages are already in evidence, she said. The carrier records establishing their fabricated origin are already in evidence. Whether or not he withdraws the asset claim, the court has seen what it's seen. She paused. Judge Holt has been on the bench for 22 years. I do not believe she is going to overlook what is in front of her. Ethan nodded once. Tell him no withdrawal, he said. We finished the hearing. Diana looked at him for a moment. Okay, she said. She went back inside. Judge Holt's findings took 40 minutes to deliver, which was efficient by the standards of family court and thorough, by the standards of any court. She found, first, that the lottery ticket was not a marital asset and could not be subject to equitable distribution. She noted the trust documentation, the testimony of the executor, and the complete absence of any evidence that the ticket had been purchased with marital funds or held as a marital asset at any point. She found, second, that the text messages submitted as evidence of marital infidelity had been established, through carrier records, to originate from a device with no connection to the respondent, and that their submission as authentic evidence constituted a material misrepresentation to the court. She found, third, that the divorce petition had been filed in bad faith. premised on fabricated evidence and an asset claim that had no legal foundation. She assessed sanctions. The sanctions were the part that Gerald Fitch had been hoping to avoid, and which he had not succeeded in avoiding, and which included, among other specifically enumerated items, the full legal fees generated by the respondent's defense, the court costs of the proceeding, and a separate finding referred to the State Bar for review of counsel's conduct in submitting the text messages as authentic evidence. The bar referral was the part that made Fitch go very still. Sarah's face, when Judge Holt finished, had the specific quality of a person who had been operating in one reality for the entire length of these proceedings and had just been relocated, without transition, to a different one. She turned to look at Fitch. Fitch was looking at his notes. He was not, at that moment, looking at her. The hallway outside the courtroom was ordinary. Ethan walked through it with his folder under his arm and pushed through the exterior door. And the November afternoon was bright in the way afternoons were bright when the air was cold and clear. And the light had a particular quality of absence, the summer's warmth gone, the sky emptied of everything soft. He stood on the courthouse steps. Diana came out behind him and stood beside him and did not say anything for a moment, because there was a category of moment that didn't require immediate filling, and she had learned to recognize it. "What's her exposure?" Ethan asked. "Sanctions plus her own fees. She's somewhere between $270,000 and $300,000 in debt as of today," Diana said. "If the bar proceeding results in findings against Fitch, his malpractice insurer will be involved, which may shift some of that, but the sanctions against her personally are not movable. The house is underwater." "Yes, the joint accounts, $14,000, which will be absorbed by court costs." Ethan nodded. He looked at the parking lot. At the ordinary November afternoon going about its business, cars moving, a woman walking a dog on the sidewalk across the street, a delivery truck double parked at the corner. "She came into this expecting $5 million, he said. "Yes. She's leaving with negative $300,000. Approximately." He was quiet for a moment. He thought about the kitchen on a Tuesday evening 6 years ago, the proposal that had not needed a special location or ambient lighting, because he had believed the person mattered more than the context. He thought about 41 hours. He thought about the drawer in his office, and the missing envelope, and the specific kind of hunger he had watched move across Sarah's face at holiday dinners whenever the conversation turned to money, an involuntary thing, a reflex, the needle swinging toward the pole it was built for. He thought about Wallace, driving home right now in the car he'd had for 11 years, because he found no compelling reason to replace something that worked, probably already thinking about the next thing, the next structure, the next interesting situation. He thought about what it felt like to be free. "I'm going to Wallace's for dinner," he said. Diana smiled. It was a small, real smile, the kind that came from having done something correctly and knowing it. "Tell him the documentation held," she said. "He'll know," Ethan said. "He always does." He walked down the courthouse steps. The afternoon held. The light was very clean. He did not look back. 3 weeks later, Ethan received a letter from Wallace. It was handwritten, on the heavy cream stationery his uncle had used for correspondence for as long as Ethan could remember. And it was brief in the way that things were brief, when the person writing them trusted the reader to carry most of the weight. "Ethan, the trust has made its first charitable distribution, 12% to the Children's Hospital, 8% to the Legal Aid Foundation downtown. The remainder continues to accumulate. You'll notice, I didn't list you as a beneficiary. That was always the point. The ticket wasn't a gift, it was a question. I've been asking it in various forms for 40 years. Most people answer it the same way. You were the first one who put it in a drawer and waited. I thought you should know that. W. Ethan read it twice. He folded it carefully and put it in the drawer of his desk, the same drawer, the same spot where the birthday envelope had been. And he sat for a moment in the quiet of the room that was entirely his. In the house he had rented after the proceedings concluded, smaller than the one with the underwater mortgage, with a window that faced west and got good light in the afternoons. The light was good right now. He had enrolled in an online course 3 weeks ago, a postgraduate certificate in financial analysis, something he had been meaning to do for 2 years, and had not done because the evenings had always been occupied by the second job, which he had kept because the expenses had always been what they had been. The expenses were different now. He opened the course module. He started reading. Outside, the afternoon did what afternoons did, moved through its light, changed its quality, became something quieter as the sun dropped. He read until it was dark. He made dinner. He did not think about Sarah, because there was nothing left to think, because the story of that had reached its end in a county courthouse on a clear November morning, and had been filed and closed, and was now what all closed cases eventually became, a piece of paper in a system, accurate in its findings and finished. He was not finished. He had, if anything, the particular quality of a person at the beginning of something, without the noise of the preceding years, without the weight of the constant management of someone else's hunger. Just the course module, just the good light, just the very ordinary, very valuable fact of an evening that belonged entirely to him.